General Hospital spoilers. Drew kills Willow. Nina spirals into devastating grief. In a dark and shocking turn of events that will shake Port Charles to its core, General Hospital fans are about to witness the unthinkable. Drew Cain takes Willow Corinthos' life, and nothing will ever be the same again. What begins as a simple confrontation quickly unravels into a night of irreversible tragedy, betrayal, and grief. And at the center of this unraveling storm stands a heartbroken Nina Reeves, devastated, vengeful, and more dangerous than ever. For months, Willow had fought to keep peace in her life. After surviving leukemia, undergoing a bone marrow transplant, and enduring months of emotional upheaval, she had finally started finding moments of calm with Michael and the kids. She returned to nursing part-time, reconnected with Wiley and Amelia, and even began to mend the broken pieces of her fractured relationship with Nina, albeit slowly. But peace was never meant to last in Port Charles. The writing was on the wall from the moment Nina's SEC secret came to light. Even though Willow offered forgiveness, the damage was done. The Corinthos family had split down the middle, Sonny was unraveling, and Michael's obsession with protecting his family had reached a dangerous high. Meanwhile, Drew's behavior had changed dramatically since returning from Pentonville. Hardened, cold, secretive. Something inside Drew Cain had cracked, and no one, not even Carly, saw the storm building inside him. Drew had kept it together for as long as he could. After months of trying to be the hero, protecting Scout, rebuilding his career, and supporting Carly, something inside him finally snapped. It wasn't just the prison time. It was the betrayal. It was discovering that Michael had used him as a pawn. That Willow had known what Nina did to Carly, and stayed silent. That Sonny, the man he once considered family, had done nothing to protect Carly when the SEC storm hit. But most of all, it was Willow's forgiveness. That she could forgive Nina, the woman responsible for sending Carly to the wolves, was the final straw for Drew. He began spiraling. At first, it was subtle. Missed meetings. Avoiding Scout. Drinking more than usual. Then came the paranoia, the belief that Willow was a ticking time bomb of deception. That if she could protect Nina once, she could do it again. And Drew wasn't going to let that happen. In his mind, Willow wasn't just a danger to Carly. She was the reason Carly's life had been ripped apart. He began to believe that eliminating Willow would finally bring peace, justice, redemption. And on a cold April night, Drew put his plan into action. It started with a phone call. Willow received a message from Drew, asking her to meet at the Corinthos Estates boathouse, a secluded, quiet place they once used for Michael's birthday party. Drew claimed he had information about Nina's next move and needed Willow's help. Despite her instincts warning her otherwise, Willow went. The confrontation was immediate. "You're just like your mother," Drew hissed, his voice laced with venom. Smiling on the surface, destroying everything underneath. Willow tried to reason with him. "Drew, please, I only wanted to protect my family. I forgave Nina for my own peace." It wasn't about Carly, but Drew wasn't listening. He saw red. Months of pain. Lies. The helplessness of prison. Carly's humiliation. Scout's tears. All of it collapsed into this moment, and Willow stood at the center of his rage. And then, the gun went off. One shot. Clean. Fast. Fatal. Willow collapsed onto the floor, blood soaking through her white sweater, eyes wide with shock. Her last words, "Tell Michael, I forgive him." By the time Michael arrived, having received a strange GPS alert from Willow's phone, it was too late. She was gone. Drew stood frozen, gun still in his hand, eyes hollow, the weight of what he had done crashing over him like a tsunami. Michael was inconsolable. Losing Willow shattered him in a way nothing else ever could. His grief was primal, devastating. He collapsed beside her body, screaming into the night. Then he looked up and saw Drew, his uncle, his mentor, his betrayer. "What did you do?" Michael whispered. But Drew had no answer. Carly arrived minutes later and screamed in horror. The man she loved had just murdered the mother of her grandson, the woman who had just begun healing. And Sonny? When he heard the news, he didn't speak. He didn't cry. He simply walked into his penthouse, loaded a gun, and whispered one word: justice. When Nina was told of Willow's death, the world stopped. The woman she had just started to know. The daughter she never got to raise. The second chance that had barely begun.
Gone.
Nina's screams were heard from the hospital lobby to the rooftop. Her grief was uncontainable. She tore through her apartment, smashing framed photos, pulling out pieces of Willow's childhood keepsakes, and finally collapsing into a corner, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over again. But it didn't take long for her grief to turn to fury. She blamed Carly. She blamed Michael. But most of all, she blamed Drew. And Nina wanted blood. Port Charles quickly descended into chaos. Elizabeth was one of the first to step forward, demanding that Drew be arrested immediately. Her empathy toward mental health took a backseat to justice for her longtime friend and fellow nurse. Brooklyn and Chase, who had only just started celebrating their engagement, were caught in the middle. Brooklyn's support for Michael ran deep, but Chase, as a cop, was ordered to arrest Drew. Sam, horrified by what Drew had done, took Scout and disappeared into hiding. Rumors swirled that she was fleeing to prevent the state from taking custody of her daughter. And Alexis Davis backed her up, ready to fight for Scout's safety. Jocelyn, in shock over Willow's death, began to spiral emotionally. She blamed herself for not intervening sooner when Drew began showing signs of instability. And Dex, returning from his time away, tried to comfort her, but the damage to her soul may be permanent. When Drew was finally arrested, he didn't resist.
He didn't speak. He didn't even cry.
At his arraignment, he stared blankly ahead, refusing a plea deal, refusing a lawyer. Carly visited once, and he refused to see her. "The man you loved died in Pentonville," he reportedly told the guard. "I'm just what's left." With Willow gone, Nina's entire moral compass shattered. She no longer cared about peace. She no longer cared about redemption. She wanted justice, and she would get it by any means necessary. Sources say Nina has begun leveraging her remaining connections at Crimson and Aurora to secretly investigate those who failed Willow. A whisper campaign begins, and a new target is on the horizon: Carly Corinthos. Nina believes that Carly helped cover up Drew's instability, that she knew and did nothing. And Nina will make her pay. The funeral at Rice Park was one of the most devastating scenes General Hospital has ever aired. Michael carried Amelia in his arms while Wiley clutched a stuffed bear and asked, "Where's Mommy?" Sonny stood alone, watching from a distance, his eyes red and lips pressed tight. Nina was not allowed near the family section, a cruel irony for a woman who had only just found her daughter. As the minister read Willow's favorite poem, "Still I Rise" by Maya Angelou, the wind picked up and cherry blossoms rained down from the trees. Even nature seemed to mourn. In the weeks to come, Port Charles will reckon with the consequences of Drew's crime. Michael will wage a silent war with grief, his heart buried beside Willow. Nina will rise like a phoenix, not for healing, but vengeance. Carly will be forced to testify, and her loyalty may cost her everything. Sonny may break his promise to remain calm and go after Drew his way. Scout may grow up haunted by what her father did. And Willow's spirit? It may still linger, trying to protect the ones she loved from beyond. As one life ends, others unravel, and the dominoes are just beginning to fall.